Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network and the Sales Confidence Lab. If you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales. If you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m., and welcome to 10:10 at 10 a.m. It's October 10th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or I do a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And my friends, today is no exception. Our guest today is the president of Creative Training Solutions, where they provide training in three unique areas: train, retain, and master. For Stacia Skinner, who is our guest today, training is not just a check mark, it's helping sales team create habits for continued growth. Stacia is the author of 3 books, Sell Now, Virtual Selling, and her latest, Competitive Selling, the guidebook to proactive calling in a reactive world. And by the way, she's got another one coming out soon, which we'll talk about later. And before I introduce you to Stacia, I have to tell you that I've known Stacia for a little over 2 decades. And I was very fortunate. Before I opened up my own company, I went to work for a training company where Stacia Skinner was one of the premier trainers. And I had the great good fortune to be sent out on the road with Stacia way more than once. Besides my friend Steve Bookbinder, I credit Stacia and Steve for almost every word that comes out of my mouth, even though Steve at least has said, no, you're doing something different. But it's my pleasure to introduce you to one of my mentors in the sales training business, Stacia Skinner. Good morning, Stacia.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Jeff. Yes, it's always been a delight to see you and to work with you. And you didn't have to put the 2 decades thing in there, though.
Oh, we both started when we were about 30, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I was 12, but that's okay.
Well, Stacia, before I get to the 1,000,001 questions I have about sales and sales training for you, why don't you give everybody like the 2-minute version of your background?
Oh my goodness. So I've been in the sales training business now for basically almost 30 years, to be honest with you. I've been in every entity of sales that you can imagine. I've been in inside, outside. I was a manufacturer's rep. I sold eyeglasses. I did a lot, whatever it is, I probably sold it back in the day. And then I found my heart and joy in training. And it really was something that I took very, very personally, Jeff, because the fact is that I was really able to see how I could really help people and what they currently do. And that to me is just such a thrill. To get that aha. I mean, I think you can relate. That aha moment is just darn amazing. And for me, the training has been just a delight. If you would have told me, 20 plus years ago, this is what you'd be doing, I'd be like, are you higher than a kite? But I just love every minute of it. So that's kind of it.
I get it completely. I was interviewed on a podcast just yesterday, and the guy asked me, what do you like best about training salespeople? And I'm like, the emails, the texts, the DMs I get that say, hey, I tried that thing and it worked. I closed a deal that I would have otherwise, or I got a promotion. Or it's incredibly rewarding because what we get to do helps people feed their families.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It really is. I don't want to get all sappy, but it really does. Yes, we get to make money, and yes, we get to have fun. I know you love doing it like I do, but it really is a great feeling to help companies succeed and people succeed.
Yeah.
What do you feel is a mistake that so many salespeople are making right now without even knowing they're doing it?
It's funny that you asked that because it's something that I've been thinking about. And I think it's really their definition of selling. I think where they're really missing the boat is talking about what sales really means, right? It's always that evil word that, you're a salesperson, right? But really, if you think about your definition of selling is really about helping people achieve what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, all of us, I don't care what you're selling, you're trying to help someone accomplish something that's important to them. And it's not about pushing product or service. I got to tell you, if that's all you're doing, and Jeff, you've seen it just like I have, people who just push and push, you know what? You're going to burn out really, really fast, really fast. There's this wonderful book that I read recently called The Ultimate Coach by Steve Hardison. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he talked about it very briefly. He talked about sales, and I love his definition, kind of ransacked it and made it my own. And he talks about that selling is enrolling people into your ideas. And that selling is about servicing someone. I think a lot of times we do ourselves not, just misfortune of not thinking about servicing that person on the other end. How are you really able to service that person? So, and the only way we can do that is by asking the questions that we need to ask.
Yeah. So the big mistake is really not serving people and pitching instead of asking questions. I
Exactly.
go with
in the definition. Yeah.
Yeah. I go with the Zig Ziglar, which is selling is serving. Our job is to serve our prospects, serve our clients, serve our customers. And, I think you said it best. It's how do I help somebody do what they're doing better? How do I help them make more money, be more effective, be more efficient, all those things. And I also love what you said about pushing. We both know that when you push against something, it pushes back. So the old days of, and look, we've both been around for quite a while. Me way longer than you, of course, Princess Stacia. But look, I sold Encyclopedia Britannica, and that was a pushy sale. It was a one-call close 50 years ago, where you were selling a $2,000 set of books to people who could send their kids to use it for in the library for free. So we had to push because we knew we needed a decision that night. It just doesn't work anymore. Today's consumer is better educated and is not going to put up with it. So it really does come down to serving. I was fascinated, because I grew up in the sales training business around you and people like you. I love the words pearls of wisdom. What is the Pearl sales methodology?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So just as a background, so I just moved to the Eastern Shore of Maryland 6 years ago. And if you know the Eastern Shore of Maryland, I came from Chicago. Obviously, I don't have an Eastern Shore accent, but I came from Chicago. And oysters and pearls and all of that is very strong in this area, right? And crabs, of course. And so one of the things I thought of is, okay, how can I differentiate myself from everybody else out there? And, I've had 20 plus years of sales training, and what do I really do? And I really took the time to figure out, what do I really do? And one of the things that I really thought about is I really cultivate sales people. I like to find their pearl, right? In what they do. I don't care if it's prospecting, pipeline man, whatever it may be, selling skills. But what I try to do is bring that nugget, bring that pearl up into how they see themselves as a great salesperson. So the Pearl methodology stands for basically, the P stands for purpose. You need to be purposeful. In whatever you do, you got to have a purpose, right? The E stands for engagement, which I still believe wholeheartedly that building relationships in today's market is more important than ever before. I'm telling you, we are in that instant gratification time. You got Instagram, you got TikTok, you got it where, but in business is about that relationship, that long-term relationship. So the E really is about engagement. The A is alignment, making sure you're aligned with your products and services to what that customer is trying to achieve. The R is resilience. Let's be honest. In today's sales market, we have to be very resilient, which also means we have to be malleable too. We got to be able to change anytime we can. So that resiliency isn't a negative. It's being able to kind of maneuver and change as our environment changes. And then L is lifelong learning. I really do believe if you think that you know everything, because I surely don't. Jeff, I don't think you do either. I've learned something new every day. But if you've stopped learning, then stop being in sales or whatever you're doing, because you can always learn something from someone. So that's what the whole kind of thing is about.
Yep. And look, I still read just about every sales book that comes out, and I'm looking forward to our friend Todd Capone's new book on sales negotiating, which is coming out, I think, very, very soon, or either just came out. So I don't know whether I got that from you or not, but to this day, when I'm standing in front of an audience, when I'm warming them up in the beginning, I tell them, now look, during the day, I'm going to say stuff, and some of that stuff's going to be more important than others. I call those pearls of wisdom. And if I don't see you taking notes when I give you a pearl of wisdom, I'm actually going to say, that was a pearl of wisdom. You should be writing this down. So I might have taken that directly from you. Now you have 20 pearls of wisdom.
Yes, I do.
What are a few of those pearls?
Well, some of these are going to sound very familiar because, Jeff, I think we can't come from the same hymn book or whatever you want to call it, right? Very first is never get off the phone or end a meeting without an NST, a next set time, a date. And come on, I'm talking to the choir here. I know I am, right?
It's the most important thing I teach salespeople. I say that over and over. This is what I'm about to share with you is the most important. If you learn nothing else today, just learn this one thing. Never end a meeting without setting up the next one.
And it's a habit, right? It's a habit you got to practice. I remember when I was told this years back, you got to set that next set time. You got to. Now we are awesome at next steps, which is, hey, why don't we get together next Thursday, or how does next week sound? But that to me is a suggestion that you're giving to your customer or to your prospect. When I say, Jeff, let's get together, how's Tuesday at 2? What I'm asking for is a commitment from you. We have to get that commitment from our customers. What would you rather have, a suggestion or a commitment? I mean, let's be honest, right?
Of course, a commitment. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So that NST, I'm sure I am speaking to the choir here, even for your viewers here. But if there is one thing I am going to say, don't leave. And if you can't figure out how to get back, then there's probably not a sale there. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. I call that be nasty, BNASTY, the best next action step toward yes.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. Be nasty. Might have to take that one from you.
Feel free, because I stole almost everything else from you. What else? What are a couple of other pearls?
So another thing is, don't let a day go by without being proactive, since you can't make up for lost time. I don't care if you can only just make one outbound call, whatever that may be, or one outbound email, or some touch point somehow, LinkedIn, whatever it may be. But the fact is, we as salespeople have to be proactive each and every day. And we do. We can't live on our laurels. We've all been stuck with it. I have, you have, and we teach this, for crying out loud. But if we just sit on what we've got, there is going to be a time when it's gone. And I always ask people, if you lost your number one customer today, would you have enough in your hopper that you wouldn't be hurt by it, or that you can make it up in a short period of time? 90% of salespeople say, oh my gosh, if I lost my number one client, I'd be dead in the water. Well, keep that in mind every day, that your number one client could leave you, because they will. They will. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
The other thing
when the 2008 income drop, the economy went crazy, I was in exactly that position. I had two deals that were going to be worth $350,000 between the two of them at the end of the year. They were both absolutely positively coming through, and both of them died on the vine at the last second. Now I'm in the beginning of 2009, and the worst economic downturn in a long, long time, and I'm dead in the water. It's the carpenter whose house is falling apart. So I'm with you 1,000,000%. Never, ever let a day go by without prospecting.
Yeah. And we are as salespeople, that's part of what we have to do. Unfortunately, we're not account managers. Even if you're an account manager, you still have to prospect within that account to make sure you're high and wide within that. And so, again, are there days when I'm like, the last thing I want to do? Absolutely. But I know I got to do it. So you got to make that habit. The other thing is to remember that when you're in a call, I don't care if you're inside or outside sales, the one who asks the questions is the one who's in control of the conversation. You need to make sure that you're in control and not your customer. I talk about, you need to make sure that you are leading that conversation to your desired outcome that's going to help that customer and what they want to do. If they're the ones always asking the questions, you're not in control. And a lot of times that's when price becomes the number one indicator. So make sure that you have that ability to control it in the beginning of the conversation, because again, the one who asks the questions is the one who's in control.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
And I guess
I have no problem with a prospect asking me questions. I like when they ask questions,
I love it.
but we need to turn them around and lead them back, because if we let the prospect guide the conversation, we might end up in Miami. I like Miami, but not if I'm trying to get to San Francisco.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I think one of the things is to kind of piggyback on that. Another pearl that I always look at is that it's your role as a salesperson to guide that person through your sales process, not follow your prospect's buying process. So with that, are you able to control that? Are you able to move that? Because again, that's our job. I don't expect a customer, when we're talking at the end, going, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. We have got to get, you know what? I'm going to give you $1 million because of what awesome thing. It doesn't happen. Rarely does that happen. Right. But I do want the prospect to go, I think you've touched on something that's really going to be important to us. And that I think that you're going to really help us in that. Listen, you know it as well as I do, Jeff. In most companies, sales training is a like to have, not a have to have. Right.
Yep.
And so we need to sell not just the value, but the impact that we can provide to that customer. And impact is far better than value. And so remember, help them through that.
Yeah. And not only is training a nice to have for them, when they do want training, they want it as we say in the business, training as an event. Come in for a day, train my people. And look, I don't care how good either of us are, or the one who I revere, Steve Bookbinder, who I think is still the greatest trainer I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how great a trainer you are. If you're just going in for a day, all you're doing is entertaining people, maybe giving them a couple of pearls of wisdom, and you're really paying my mortgage. Right. And that's what I actually tell my prospects. I said, look, I will come in and do a day of training, but you're going to get nothing out of it. I'm very entertaining. I'm a stand-up comedian on the side. Your team's going to love me, and they're going to learn a lot of stuff. But in a couple of days, it's all going to be gone. If you really want to see some value and return on your investment, then what we need is training plus some reinforcement. Otherwise, you're just paying my mortgage. And by the way, now that I've told you that, if that's what you want to do, I'll take your money, but that's not my advice. Right. I'd rather have somebody say, you know what, let's not do this at all, than really just take me for a day of training.
Right. A day of training, again, event.
It's fun, but it's not going to, what they want is their sales to go up. They're not looking just to have a good time. They want their sales to increase, because that's our job. How do we help them sell better so that their sales go up? Yes.
Well, and the other thing is, if you really think about sales is a journey, right? Sales is all about, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It really is. And through this marathon, there are certain things that we've got to do, just like in any type of marathon. You can't run and just go 100% that very first and think you're going to do 26 miles. You're not. You're going to die after, 2 miles or whatever it may be. Well, the same thing goes with sales. So being a guest speaker or a keynote is great to bring that lift. But then it's up to the managers, and then it's up to the company itself to reinforce those things that we're asking them to do. And that's why I think that's where I think sales training kind of misses the mark sometimes. We're good at giving great skills and things to do, but we're not so good. Many companies out there are not good at retaining and then sustaining that. Yeah. And that's important to me. I don't want to be a habit. I want to be a sales lifestyle that you just ingrain into yourself in order to make yourself better. And that takes time. It's not a one and done. It takes time.
Yep. I don't know if you're hearing this, but a lot of reps are telling me today that they think sales is getting harder. It's getting harder and harder to sell. Do you feel sales has become harder recently? And if you do, why do you think that might be?
Good question. I think it's hard. No, I don't think it's harder. To be honest, I really don't. Are there things that are getting in our way? Is there a lot of noise that is getting in our way? Yes, there is. But there's always been noise. Let's be honest. There's always been noise. And so I always look at it because, I always look at it as, sales is hard. Let's be honest. Sales is not an easy job. If it were easy, all of us would do it. Sales is tough.
That's why we make the big bucks.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, right? What I believe is happening in our market today, though, is that our buyers are becoming more savvy, which means for salespeople, we have to be more prepared than ever before. Can't wing it anymore. You can't. There was a time when, and I remember these days, you kind of go in and it would just like kind of flow. It was just like, wow. Well, that's not here today, right? The buyer today has so much information that they can gather, especially with AI and everything else. They're through their buying process, probably 80% through it before you're even talking to them. So if you're coming in, kind of winging it and saying the same stuff to everybody, you're going to lose.
Yep.
You've got to really tailor what you do to what's important to that buyer. And that's why I think it's harder, because we have to do more homework before we see someone.
I don't know that sales is harder. Yes, you're right. We have to do more homework, but it's the prospecting that's harder, because
prospecting is tough.
It's harder to get through to people these days. It just is. So that's the tougher part. There's something else I wanted to ask you about, though. And I've heard this from way more than one person, and it's not what I believe, by the way, and I doubt that it's what you believe. I've heard, Jeff, relationships don't matter anymore. Go in, people don't have the time to listen to you. They don't want to hear it. They just want to know what you've got and show them how it can help them. The relationship isn't important. Do you think that relationship selling is dead? If so, well, if you don't believe that, I didn't think so. So do you believe that salespeople actually understand that? Because I'm hearing from a lot of them that they don't think it's important, which is crazy.
Well, I think we're in that instant gratification time. And remember, as far as business is concerned, business is old school with new school technologies that are in it. And one of the key things of old school is relationships. Relationships are the key to success, period. I don't care what you say. Relationships are the key. And we talk about, when I'm doing training, I talk about kind of the 4 levels of a relationship that you can have with someone. You can be a seller, vendor, supplier, or a trusted advisor. And there are certain things that can happen in all 4 categories. And the way that I look at it is at a seller vendor level, we're very reactive. And the reason is because there's really no trust or no loyalty that's been built through it, right? And so because of that, price becomes the number one reason why they do business with you. Well, I'm going to tell you, and our friend Todd Camponi is writing a book on this negotiation. The fact is, you can't negotiate if all you're talking about is price, because price negotiation is the lowest form of negotiation. And if you really think about it, who's controlling the conversation, you or the customer? Well, the customer is. They're the ones who, what's your price? When can you get it? I mean, they're the ones who are asking the questions. You're not allowed really to answer those questions. But at a supplier, what I call trusted advisor, they're more proactive. We're building that relationship for long-term success. You're able to ask the questions. You're able to get an understanding of what they're trying to achieve and how you can do that. They look you as like the supplier of ideas. Hey, Jeff, I got this idea for you, right? You're having a conversation is what you're having at the. Now, does it take time to get there? Yeah. And that's the problem, I think, Jeff, is that today, salespeople, we've got high, goals. We got all this. It's harder to get a hold of people prospecting. So then when we get to a customer, we forget about the relationship and think about the time. Well, sales takes time. And you got to have that time in order to really uncover what's important to that customer and the impact that you can provide. I don't believe in value added selling, by the way. I don't. I've gotten away with that probably for the last 5 years. I really believe in impact selling. What's the difference? Impact is having a strong influence on someone or something, right? I'm going to have a strong effect on you. And when I'm coming in there, I'm trying to figure out what that is. What is it that I can do to help you increase, decrease, or eliminate something that's really important to you that's going to help you with your business outcome? Which means I got to ask questions. So the difference is that relationship of long-term relationship, you can build on. Short-term, you can't. You can't. I love this exercise and I love to give this to your audience. So think about this. Think about it. Think of your top 5 customers or your 5 top prospects. If I'm at a supplier or a trusted advisor, I'm controlling the sales process. So think about that. Are you controlling the sales process? Or if you're at a vendor-seller relationship, are they controlling it?
Yeah. At the trusted advisor level, if they're going to put out an RFP, they're actually calling you to help them write the RFP.
They are.
You have a seat at the table.
Oh, again, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It takes time. And there are customers, and I think you and I have both talked about this. There are customers that will never let you get to a supplier level. They won't. They just won't. And I think all of your audience can relate to that. You've got those customers, no matter what you do, it's all about price. If you're a penny more, they're going to go to your competition, which means, think about this, which means you can't rely on repeatable income coming from that customers. Repeat business is so unpredictable. Where when you're at a supplier trusted advisor, we're working together to figure it out. And we're actually probably now, because of being fourth quarter, figuring out how we can work for first quarter 2026.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. I'm assuming it's the same for you as it is for me. It's never about the price when people are engaging with me, because I'm far from the cheapest. No. We're good at what we do, and we people invest with us because it's worth the investment. And I don't know about you, but I don't negotiate a penny. I teach people to negotiate, but when I give somebody my price, that's it. You want less? I introduce them to some of my local competitors who do a great job and work less expensively than me. They're lovely people. We're friends, but you want me?
Exactly.
There's a gazillion trainers out there. There's a gazillion people who do what you and I do, but there's only one Stacia Skinner. There's only one Jeff Goldberg. You want what I got?
Right.
You're paying what I ask. Otherwise, I'm not interested. And I want to talk about something else, though. I know you've written 3 books on selling, and you're working on a 4th. And your 4th is about one of my favorite subjects, pipeline management. So for those who don't understand what that is, what is pipeline management? Why is pipeline management important? And what are some of the maybe key things or the ideas that salespeople can do to help their pipeline?
Pipeline management is being able, I look at it as managing your opportunities to be able to forecast what is going to come in for the future. That's pipeline management. So for those of you who don't understand, some of you might hear it as funnel management, or, having your funnel or your pipeline, whatever. I look at it's able to use your pipeline as a sales tool versus a reporting tool. I am sure many of you in organizations have it where they got to figure out, what's projected 60, 90 day, whatever it may be. Well, that is considered a pipeline, right? And your pipeline, if used correctly, should be the window to your future. It really should be. It should be able to project if you're going to make it or not. So there's no surprises. That's what pipeline management really is about. Most salespeople, though, I will say, and managers, use it as a reporting tool, not as a sales tool, not as a strategy tool to figure out how to get somebody who's from here to close. How do I get somebody that is at the proposal stage and won't answer my call? Right? What are the strategies that we can? It's all about strategy, because you know it as well as I do. The one with the best plan wins. And basically, pipeline management should be used as a strategy tool to figure out what I need to do in order to get where I need to go. I always look at it that a lot of pipelines out there, when I look at a pipeline, and Jeff, I'm sure you have this too, it's a lot of what I call the wish list or hopium, right? The hopium.
I hope.
Yeah. I hope this is going to close. There's no strict criteria. There's no, there's nothing to go on but gut.
Yeah, as soon as I hear the word hope, I know the deal's dead.
Oh, it is.
I hope this one's going to close.
Yes.
Get it off your list. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And the other thing that I see, which is an issue, managers too, they look at the back end of the pipeline and not the front. So then all of a sudden they're looking all at the back end. So where does what the salesperson concentrate on? The back end. But if I don't have anything in the front end, I'm not going to have it. Then all of a sudden I'm going to get yelled at because you know what? I've got nothing in my hopper. And that's that ebbs and flows. Great May, terrible June, great July, terrible August. There's a way to avoid that, but there's also a way to look at your pipeline as the tool. It is a powerful tool that you can use. And so, if I were going to give you a couple of things for those of you that are thinking of pipeline, and think about all those prospects you're talking to right now that you want to close by the end of the year, right? The end, it's fourth quarter. Here we go, right? The desperate time. But then my question is, so how does January, February, and March of 2026 look? Because that's what you're really working on today versus what's going to come in November and December, because they're basically done.
Unless you're in a very highly transactional sale. Yeah, we're working on Q1 of next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's kind of a couple of things that I and again, I'm speaking to the choir. First and foremost, I got to repeat it again, is look at your pipeline. Does every opportunity have what we call an NST or a next set time? And it's a time that is in your calendar, but also in your prospect's calendar.
It's definitely not, I'm going to call this person next week. That's not it.
No, that's not it. That's a hopium, right? This is, I have next Thursday, 10 o'clock, we're meeting, and then it's to do what, right? And so make sure that everyone, if it doesn't have an NST, get on the phone and try to get one, right? Absolutely. Number two is that look at your pipeline as a tool to help you avoid shortcuts that can kill us in the sales process. There is a certain thing you need to do for every sale, right? There's certain criteria you have to do. We can't skip steps to make it go faster. We can't. There's a certain amount of time that it takes. And we all know time kills deals. Well, shortcuts kills deals too, right? And so we need to merely be sure that our pipelines have criteria to move it forward. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the big ones that I have for me is at a proposal stage, I must have uncovered the 4 R's. Well, what are the 4 R's? I know I've got the right decision maker. And it's not by asking the question, are you a decision maker? Because no one's going to say no. They're not. Yeah, let's be honest. Everybody's a decision maker. So I've got the right decision maker. I got the right solution. And what I mean by that, uncovering what it was, the impact that it's the right solution. I know the right timing of when they're going to make a decision, but also when do they want that product or service? Okay. Because let's say they make a decision now, right? Oh, we're going to go with you. But you know what? I don't want to do this until second quarter 2026. Does that make a difference on your bottom line? Sure it does. You said it, Jeff. You had these ones. They were there, right? In 2008. And then, right?
Boom.
And then the last one is that I've got the right budget. For some reason, salespeople are afraid to talk about price. Well, you're not a nonprofit. You're a profit organization, right? So it's going to cost them something. Why hide it at the proposal stage? Throw it in at the discovery stage. I want to get that reaction of, oh, or oh, because if it's, oh, then my thought is, well, what did you think it was going to cost? And where'd you get that number? And how can we then talk about the impact that I'm going to provide for this right solution that you're telling me this is important for your business outcome? It's very different, right? And
Yep.
I can't move it from that proposal stage until I have all four of those. Actually, if I don't have it, I can't do a proposal, because how can I do it if I don't have that? And last, I think the biggest thing is, and this is the biggest issue that salespeople, and even and I'll admit it, have problems with, is keeping my front end full. It's hard. I'm telling you, it is hard. And I think one of the things that I look at is there is a certain number of first appointments you have to have in your calendar at all times in order for you to hit your goal. That's basically knowing what your closing ratio is.
Yeah, it's just simple math.
Simple math. What does it need to take to get there? Because you also got to realize 75% of what you put in your pipeline doesn't come to fruition.
Yes. And if I've got a 25% closing ratio and I need to close 4 deals, I got to have 16 first appointments at all times. I mean, to me, that's one of the most important or the most valuable things about a good pipeline management system. If you know your numbers, you know exactly how many first appointments or first meetings you have to have set up at all times. And anytime you don't have that many, you know you're screwed somewhere down the line. So you better get busy. And the other thing, I mean, we both know pipeline management can be used for many things, but the other thing that was really, to me, the most important, it's having a manager or somebody else review your pipeline with you so that they can give you advice on the deals that you couldn't think of. You can think outside my box, just like I can think outside your box.
Exactly.
But, you know, I think I've told this on this broadcast more than once, but the very first time I went out with our friend Steve Bookbinder, the very first time I watched him train pipeline management. And at that point, I had 29 years of successful sales experience, and I'm learning how to deliver sales training. And I'm watching Steve, and he pulled somebody up to the front of the room, and he's doing a pipeline review, and he's asking him about a particular deal he's working on. I'm just sitting on the side, furiously taking notes and watching what's going on. And he asked this young gentleman who sold advertising, what's he going to do next? What's the next thing that's going to happen? There's that next step. And I don't remember what this young man said, but Steve said this, which blew me away. He goes, all right, that's not a bad idea, but what about this? What about inviting your prospect out to lunch and inviting a happy customer out to lunch with you and let the happy customer do the selling for you? Almost 30 years of sales experience at that point. And my hand went to my head. I went, oh my God, I never thought of that in 29 years. It never occurred to me. So the brilliance of a pipeline review is your manager or somebody else can look at your deals and give you ideas on how to move things forward to close that you just couldn't think of, not because you're stupid, not because you're bad, just they have a different frame of reference.
Well, and you're bringing up a great point. So one of the things that I look at with pipeline, and again, it's the missing piece of strategy. So one of the things that I look at, and we have this thing called Your Next Move. And we ask them for every week, you do this on Friday. And so it's a tiny little sheet. It's tiny. It can be, it doesn't matter. It can be anywhere. But what we ask them is, what are your top 5 opportunities that have the best opportunity of moving forward for next week? And what you do is you have a team meeting. And what you talk about is, what is the objective of that next meeting? What is the roadblock that could stop you from that objective? And what are solutions that you've come up with in order to eliminate that roadblock? And I am going to tell you, when you watch people go, and you cannot repeat an opportunity unless it's moved forward in the pipeline. And we asked for 5. Hey, are there weeks that You only have 2 or 3? Absolutely, because it's hard, which means I am bringing a constant flow to my pipeline. And
Brilliant.
so with that, that's what pipeline's about. It's not about, oh, you got 10 million in here and it looks like 2 million. No, that's not what it's what are we doing to make sure we're building that relationship to make sure they use you forever? And what is the strategy that we're putting together to move that sale forward?
Mm.
And I think that's the missing piece with managers and with salespeople. And I'm telling you, listen, I don't have all the answers. And someone will come up with something, hey, like Steve did, hey, bring your man or something else. I'm like, dang, I never even thought about that.
Exactly right. When's this book coming out? Because I can't wait to read it.
Well, it is scheduled to come out first quarter of next year. And so we're right now, you know it as well as I do, Jeff. This book, it makes you very humble when you go to the editor. And that's when you figure out you right. So we are planning on having it come out the first, I would say late first quarter is when it will come.
I'll be keeping an eye out for it. What about your book? What about your book, Competitive Selling? What's that all about?
So we talk about what, competitive selling, a competitive seller. What the heck is that? And the fact is that if you think about it in today's market, we can't just be sellers. We got to be competitive sellers. And what was I mean by that? The meaning is we need to be focused on performance under pressure. Okay. Meaning that when the stakes are high, when we're against heavy competition, even if we're not against heavy competition, just going to a meeting to try to get the deal is a high pressure type of thing. Competitive sellers basically figure out ways to sharpen their skills to get even better with the things that they may already know. They're open to having those discussions with their manager and fellow team members to say, hey, what could I do different? How could I do this? They're more prepared because a competitive seller has a game plan. Most sellers don't. They go in there and they go, okay, let's see. Or they're going in because, hey, I'm just seeing if you made a decision. Well, if the only reason you're going in is to touch base, check in, see if you made a decision, you got nothing.
Just following up.
Just following up, see if you made that decision. I always say, like I was talking about the Pearl, methodology, you got to have purpose in today. Listen, people are really busy today. They are. And that's why I think in many cases, and that's why it's hard for salespeople today, most people that I'm finding don't want face-to-face, even though face-to-face is the best, but they don't want face-to-face because they take longer. Yep. And people don't have the time anymore. I mean, when was the last time you actually had a lunch with a prospect? I mean, it's very rare, right?
Yeah.
I can't either. And so with that, I think that what we have to do is our game plan has to be so much sharper, but we also have to tell it in a very short period of time. Where before, oh my gosh, you'd be an hour in a prospect. Now you got 30 minutes.
Yep. We've touched on this a couple of times already. Prospecting for new business is the bane of almost every salesperson's existence. It's certainly mine. For me, every coaching client that comes to me, every company I walk into has the same number one challenge. And that used to be years ago, was that their salespeople are just not asking for the order. They weren't closing. But today they simply are not meeting with enough prospects. It's their number one challenge. So prospecting is a huge subject today, as it always has been, really. But now we've got AI, we've got LinkedIn, we've got video, phone, texting. We've got a gazillion ways and a million tools available. What do you see? What's really working today? What's the best way for salespeople to prospect?
Well, personally, I see that it really is as a combination of using all the tools we have available to us. We have more tools now than I have ever seen in sales. I mean, let's be honest. AI can complicate things a little bit, but it also can be a huge helper, right? Personally, I still believe in the phone. I really do. That if I am contacting somebody for the first time, phone first. Um, People are inundated with email. They are. And how many emails do people really read? 90% of them go into the what I call the email graveyard, right? Number
Yeah.
one, half of them are stupid. Half of them you can tell were generated by AI, right? Um, they have nothing to do with what I do. I even get this on LinkedIn too, where I'll get people who message me, they want to connect, and I connect with everybody. I gave everyone the benefit of the doubt. But if you try to sell me on that and I think you did something on this about selling on LinkedIn, that LinkedIn is not about selling, it's about connecting. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
And I use everything. I use LinkedIn. I use email. I use phone. I use video. I still do. Whether
Sure.
some people thinks it's silly or not, I get a 60% response rate on video. But it's where you place. I even text. So I even do texting for. But again, it's where you place the tool that makes the biggest difference. I don't text somebody the very first time. There's no way I would do that. That's invasion. That is. I'll call you first and I will call your cell. Listen, if you have your cell published on your business card or you have it published, you've given me you've given me kind of the right to contact you that way.
Yeah,
And
if it's
in
on
today's
your business card, I'm calling your cell phone. Absolutely. I don't even need it
yeah,
on your business card. You know, there are tools like Zoom Info and Apollo and all those. If your cell phone's available, I'm going to try it. Absolutely.
absolutely.
I'm okay if you say, "Why are you calling me on my cell?" Oh, it's your phone number. I don't even have a
That's how we
landline.
got
I
it.
mean, I do have a landline, but a lot of people don't even have a landline anymore. So it's absolutely
Well,
fine.
and they're
And
not
I'm with
even
you.
there.
It's got to be a combination. There's no one thing that's working.
No.
Look, when we first met, you know, you could cold call all day long. It was getting tougher to get through to people. It was mainly gatekeepers, but now it's nearly impossible. The response rate on cold calls alone is incredibly low. I still think it should be part of every salesperson's mix, along with emails and DMs
Right.
and all that other stuff.
But the definition of a cold call, because everybody kind of withers at the name cold call. So I'm not saying just to call somebody to call someone. You got to do a little homework beforehand to make your message, something that they'd want to hear. And that's where I usually use AI. Um, if there's a specific industry I'm calling or a certain person I'm calling and that it's a certain VP of sales in an industrial thing, I want to know what are those key pain points that are happening within that industry where I can help. Because if I can't help in there, then why am I calling there? Right.
Exactly.
And so I think in today, we used to have it. And Jeff, you remember those days of the call blitzes? Ugh. Um, I'm not into those. I'm not. I like what we call, those high impact calling sprints. You do 15 minutes but it's concentrated. I'm calling out proactively, looking for new business. It's not emailing. It's not LinkedIn. Excuse me. It's calling. It's the voice. We're still human. And this
For now.
personal, for now, right?
Yeah.
Could change. But Mad Max. Anyway, but we're still human, and that human touch is still very important. I look at it that every time you connect, they said, I saw this article recently, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder. It said that it takes anywhere between 8 to 16 touch points just to get a response from someone.
Yep.
Okay. If you're using the same thing to make this contact, okay, after a while, number one, you're going to get sick of it, and so is that prospect. The other thing is, too, is that people usually wait too long. So you got to figure out your cadence that works out well for you. For me, if I'm calling someone trying to get a hold of them, I'm probably having maximum 4 days in between each time I'm connecting. Because if I wait 2 weeks, that's too long. I'm starting all over again. And that's where I think salespeople struggle, is that it takes more to get less. It's true. It
Yep.
takes more to get less. Listen, we'd all love referrals, but for those of you that are brand new to sales, you don't have that. You don't. So you've got to start your referral process. I also am big on networking. I love networking. And there's more and more networking events coming out, more trade shows that are coming out since COVID. Thank goodness. Because it's that personal connection that really does it.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. And you use the word I love, which is cadence. How often should I be calling, emailing, DMing, and all that stuff? And you can automate almost all of it today. Yeah. And that's where AI really comes in beautifully. In fact, I think it was just yesterday I posted a prompt for, here's a prompt you can use before you go on a sales call to find out about your prospect and their company. There's just no excuse these days. I get asked all the time, Jeff, is AI going to replace us? Maybe eventually, but not anytime soon, because people still do business with people, not robots. Now, maybe in 10 years or 20 years, maybe AI will have advanced so much that we're just superfluous, but it ain't going to happen anytime soon. But I do believe that the sales rep that embraces AI is going to outperform the sales rep that does not. And I'm looking at the clock. I've got 75 more questions and only about 8 minutes. Here's something I'd like you to expand on a little bit. COVID changed the world. There's no doubt about it. And you even said it. Most of us are not meeting in person anymore. I mean, it used to be every meeting was in person. And I'm like you. I still believe nothing replaces a face-to-face meeting, shaking somebody's hand, looking them in the eye. But there is a huge advantage to doing everything virtually. And a lot of times people just not meet with you. So what do we need to know about the difference between virtual selling and in-person sales? How do we maximize our effect when we're selling virtually?
Again, it's making sure that we are, I'll use the word uber prepared. We have very little time on virtual. Virtual, usually we have anywhere between probably 30 minutes, 45 is a lot. Let's put it that way, of having a meeting. So making sure that you are really prepared. You've got your questions ready. You're ready for any questions they may have. I'm big on role playing. If you've got people who are also on the phone with you, you got to make sure that you kind of know which everyone's role is. Because the last thing you want is everybody interrupting everybody else. And that gets distracting. And so making sure, okay, Joe, you're going to talk about this. Fred, you're going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this. This is where it's coming in. And you got to have a leader. In virtual, you really have to have a leader that kind of, okay, Joe, why don't you take this? And Fred, why don't you take that? So
Stacia, would you tell them about this? Yes. Like a director in a play.
It is. It's being the director. But also, I think in virtual, you've got to be very realistic on, you're getting a little bit more of a human response because you're able to see the person's visually. If somebody's like looking all over the place, or I love it when they're like this the whole time. And it's like, really? Are you really looking at what I'm saying or not?
Or this.
Or that. Yeah, they're down like that, which means you've lost them.
Yep.
So be conscious of that and say, okay, Jeff, where did I lose you? Where something's not going right. And don't be afraid of the silence. I think that that's something even face-to-face salespeople have a real struggle with. Sometimes people just need to think. They're like, okay. And you can tell they're kind of, it doesn't mean that you got, oh, well, is it the price? That's where you don't want to go there.
It's actually reasonable for prospects to think about stuff. It's reasonable.
Yes. It's very reasonable. So virtual versus in person, being very respectful of their time, making sure you start and stop on time. I always say, make sure you're 5 minutes early in case they get on early. You're on there. Have an agenda. Make sure you have no more than 3 points, because if there's too many, it'll become overbearing and you already lost them. And then the other thing is making sure that you also ask for an NST virtually as you would, face to face.
Absolutely. Every
Right?
freaking time, without fail, no doubt. I even get a little more granular. I mean, make sure your lighting is good.
Oh,
If you're not well lit, if you've got shadows on your face, people are going to be focused on that instead of what you're saying. I mean, I have 2 ring lights up here. You can see them when I look up, and they're up on the ceiling so that they're angled down so that you don't see them reflect in my glasses all the time.
Right.
Make sure you have a good microphone.
Right.
Things like that make a difference. A good look, my camera's more expensive than $29, but I do this for a living. I need people to see me. I mean, I don't want to see me clearly, and I don't know that anybody else does either. But the prospect they're communicating with a human, and because we're not in person, you want to give them the best possible impression.
And be careful with your background. I've seen more and more, a bedroom is not an office, right?
I don't want to see your bed.
Oh my gosh. How many unmade beds I've seen? It's like, oh my gosh. Usually I have, when I'm on a meeting, I also have a virtual background. And so that way, this is a little unusual. And of course, now the lights flying and all that. But being very conscious of that. Also, what you wear, don't do the background, the backwards baseball cap. It's still professional.
Yeah. A t-shirt. Look,
it's all
like it or not, people are judging us by the way we look, how we present ourselves, and all that stuff. And I've had guys show up, with a Pink Floyd t-shirt. Now I love Pink Floyd as much as anybody, but
yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to take you seriously as you got to wear a t-shirt. At least make it plain, but a little sweater or a jacket or something. Look, I don't think I've worn a tie since COVID. I hope I never have to wear a tie again or a suit. I mean, there were some good things that came out of it, but look professional and be professional. I'm with you. And oh boy, we got 2 minutes. I don't know that there's time for it. All right, we'll try this real quick, and I want to save time to make sure we could get out your contact information. So many times, especially in sales, we set huge goals, audacious goals, and then we get all excited, and then we quickly watch as things fall apart by mid-quarter. Is that because the goal was too big?
I think noise gets in the way. I think what happens with sales, and we all do it. You talked about 2008. We talk about COVID. We could go all the way back to, 9/11, let's be honest. And what happens a lot of times is we have our goal, but we focus on those things we can't control. I also think we don't know the true activity it takes to get that goal.
The plan.
That's really the key. We think, I'm going to do $1 million. All right. So if you're going to do $1 million, right, and you have to have 16 appointments in order to, is it really realistic that you're going to do $1 million, or is it 500? I mean, so it's also, we don't go back and see what happened last quarter and readjust if we have to. So I think what we do, we put so much pressure on ourselves, but we don't look at what is the activity I have to do to get there. And that's when hopium comes into the play. And it's like, boy, I hope somebody calls me who has $1 million that they want to spend with me. Well, no, you've got to hunt for it. And do you have that time and the tenacity and the resilience to do that?
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of audacious goals, but it has to also be realistic. I was speaking to a guy yesterday, and he said, Jeff, I'm going to end up a little under $200,000 this year. My goal for next year is $1 million. And I said, okay, great goal. But do you really think you're going to increase your sales by 500% in 1 year? I mean, look, I'm a coach. I'll help you do whatever you want, but that's a bit too much. My coaching is, how about you go for 400,000 or 350 and make $1 million your 5-year plan or your 3-year plan? You got to be realistic. And I hate to say this, but we are out of time. And before we go, I want to share my screen. Stacia, if somebody's interested in working with you, hiring you as a trainer or a speaker, how do they get in touch with you? And there, people who are watching us live can see this, but this will also be converted to a podcast. So how do people reach you?
So you can call me directly at 847-840-3480. You can also email me at Stacia, Stacia, at cts-solutions.net. Also, please link in with me. I would love to link in with you, and I'm more than happy to help any way I can. Also, if you want to, you want check out our books. They're on Amazon.
And what are the names again?
We have we have Sell Now. We have Competitive Selling Series, which is competitive selling, the guidebook to proactive calling in a reactive world, and virtual selling, resilient virtual selling. And that was done during the COVID. And then we got the next one, which is pipeline momentum, getting the most out of your pipeline. So that one's coming soon.
And look for that hopefully in Q1 of next year. Stacia, thank you for everything you taught me. I know that every time I talk to Steve, it's like, Steve, every word that comes out of my mouth, I heard it from you. And he always said, no, it's not true. But it really is. You and Steve really were a huge influence. And I probably wouldn't be able to pay my rent without the two of you. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your brilliance so generously. And I'll end as I always do. Gang, sales, remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Stacia. Thank you.
Thank you.